Hi, I'm Michael Chiang. I am at the U.S. National Institutes of Health, where we basically manage a national program in biomedical research. And my position is that I am director of the National Eye Institute, where our piece of that is, vision-related research. Okay, so what I'm going to do is talk about some of the things that I've become interested in terms of incentivizing team science. So I'm going to describe the problem. I only have two slides, and this is the first one. The first premise that I want to argue is that biomedical research in the 21st century requires team science, big data, and data sharing. Okay, we often see this paradigm where there are multiple small studies going on in parallel around the world that are basically trying to answer more or less the exact same question, but with studies that are individually underpowered to really be able to answer those questions and move the field forward. Okay, there are many, many single center studies that we see where there's enormous potential for bias. Okay, that can be, different races, different populations, and we really need to come up with answers that are generalizable across all populations. And of course, there are obvious methodological benefits from multidisciplinary collaboration and team science. So the second premise is that I believe that current academic incentives, things like how many senior author papers have you published? Are you the PI on grants? And what's your H index? I believe these things disincentivize team science and disincentivize data sharing. Now, at the NIH for over a year, we have had a data sharing policy where if you don't come up with a plan to share your data, we won't fund the research. And, there are carrots and there are sticks in the world, and this is basically a stick. I have some concerns about that in the sense that, if people really don't want to share their data, we really don't want a situation where they're quote sharing data that's not useful to other people, because then everybody really loses. And so one thing I've become interested in is, can we develop and popularize metrics that are intended to incentivize team science and data sharing? Okay, so some of the approaches I'm going to talk about, these specific ones really deal with data sharing, but there's a much broader aspect of team science. Two things that I want to mention. Number one, I meet with the editors in chief of some of the major vision journals a few times a year. Okay, what can we do to work together to move the field forward? And one of the things we did a few years ago is created a new publication type called a dataset and software library, where basically you can write a paper just about your data set. And the hope of that is that people get academic credit for publishing data. You can cite it, you can find it using PubMed. And I hope that's going to be something that catches on. And there's been other work in this area. We're really trying to emphasize it in the vision field. Number two is that at the National Eye Institute, we've become interested in, what can we do to develop and validate a metric to identify and reward people who share data, which is of high value and is used by other people. And so we've started to work with a number of people around the NIH to look at this. And so we think of this as an analog to the H index, basically a data sharing index. How much data are you sharing? How good is it? We had a session about this that was, led by me, Karthik Ram, and Alison Park, discussing this. And I'm really interested in the group's sense of what is your feedback about these above ideas? How can we do them better? Are they a good idea or are they not a good idea? And in particular, are there other parameters going beyond data sharing to really promote team science that could be incentivized using metrics and culture change? And in terms of culture change, I think we have a paradigm, right now where it's knowledge is centered around the paper, and the data are somewhat of a tag along to the paper. And one of the concerns is that when people read the paper and don't see the data, if different people analyze the same data, in principle, they could come up with different findings and sometimes the opposite findings. And there's a risk of so-called publication bias when other people don't have access to the data. And I think we're moving toward a future research paradigm where with large data sets, either federated or centralized data sets, you can have different people analyzing that same data set and iteratively searching for, what is that truth? And these people are going to have to discuss among themselves in a collaborative way. And I think that's going to require a lot of culture change, for 21st century science. So thank you for giving me a chance to speak and, really look forward to sharing ideas about this. Thank you.